On that last video I did where I was showing using the bulk Salesforce endpoint to create some jobs inside SOQL queries inside Salesforce to get data out. It's very common. You could do, create ETL pipelines to do this stuff, to bring data out, pull it into some data store, and then use something like Looker, Omni, or whatever BI tool you want to query this stuff. So, one of the challenges obviously is the amount of data, so that's why you'd want to use the bulk query. The other one is the orchestration aspect of it, making sure that things run, and if there's failures, and that you handle all that stuff accordingly. So I've worked with Argo Workflows in the past at Looker and when I was at Google, and it's probably one of the best orchestration tools in my opinion out there, because it's native Kubernetes. All we got to do is create Docker containers, not all, but I mean we create Docker containers for all of our logic, and then we just use essentially these YAML files to define everything. We can store all this in code, and then we can run these basically on any cluster. So right now I'm running this on Minikube on my laptop, but if I wanted to productionize this, I could easily just go run this in GKE or Amazon's EKS service, and it would just run. So it's pretty impressive. Okay, so you define your DAGs, your directed acyclic graphs, essentially in YAML here. So you can see this is the YAML file that I'm using to orchestrate all this. And I took all that stuff that I was doing and I put it into node scripts that call the API to do the various things like submit the job and get the data out. And then I just Dockerized those and I published them to the little Docker daemon that's running inside Minikube. So it makes it easy for you to iterate and develop and test on this stuff. So okay, let's go here. So here's the Argo UI running on my laptop. Okay, you can see here's my Salesforce data. I've been playing around with some of these export data or export jobs. You can see these here. And then here's Mini.io. This is where you store essentially your artifacts. It's called the artifact repository. So you can actually pass artifacts between steps, which is really nice. And this is, simulating. You could use it for S3, GCS, Azure. Doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and kick this off. You can see here down at the bottom, I've got this little, here's my command. So I'm calling Argo on the CLI, and you can set up a cron job within Argo Workflows to run this. You can also, create through events and things like that to trigger these things, but I'm just kind of doing a quick and dirty here. But so we're running Argo, this is the namespace. I want to submit this workflow template, use that service account. I'm going to specify the watch flag so that when I kick this off, the terminal will just keep updating with the status of each one of the steps. And then just a parameter that I want to pass in. So I'm saying, go get me all the events with the system mod timestamp, greater than or equal to this. Okay. So let's go ahead and submit that. Right now we're just going to do the account table and then object, and I'll show you we can add multiple ones in here so we can run this stuff in parallel and get like the accounts and opportunities. So let's go ahead and submit that. Like I mentioned, you can see it here. This is the query that I'm running. It's getting the OAuth token from Salesforce right now, and now it's submitted the jobs. You can see it here running, and this will update periodically. So you can also see the other, the same stuff in their little sexy UI here. So right now it's just, what is this, query DAG. It's running the query DAG. We submitted the job. Okay, waiting for the job to complete inside Salesforce. So if we go over here and we refresh this, we should see a newer one here. It's about 12:53 my time, so you can see it right here. Click this, and you should see the account object here. This is the account object, and it's probably done. Okay, oh, it's already done. So we did the extract job, and we wrote all the data out to Mini.io. So let's go check that out. So if we refresh mini IO here, you can see there's the bucket, Salesforce, outputs, year, month, day. I do all this, seconds. And then this is the name of essentially the template that just ran. That's the way I kind of do the naming convention. That way I can tie all this stuff together. The other thing is storing all this stuff in artifact repositories is nice because it allows you to go back and look at the outputs of all these different steps after the pod has ran. If you don't, then once these things shut down and disappear, you lose that information. You won't be able to see it. But in this scenario, I'm just storing the output. So here's the job, there's the account table that ran, and here's the CSV file. So let's take a look at that. Download that. Okay, just open it up. And so there's the CSV file for that particular run, right? So I just was getting the ID, the name, and the revenue. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so let's go now, and I want to do a couple. So the way I built this stuff is it allows you to, I'll just run the stuff in parallel. So right now I'm just having these as parameters that I kind of hard code in here for value, but we could pass these in at the command line, obviously. So let's go ahead and do this here. Okay, so now we're going to do the account and the opportunity. Okay. And this is where that system mod timestamp is greater than equal to what we're passing in. And exactly the same code, it's just going to do it in parallel now. So let's go ahead and kick this off. And here we go. We'll get in the token again. As soon as you see this, it should fan out and you should see multiple submit jobs running and downloading. So you can see these right here, submitting both these at the same time. Let's go back over to the UI real quick. See this? So you can see both these are running. Okay. So now it's getting the job ID because we submitted the query to Salesforce. It returns back a JSON object and we get the ID, and now we're just going into a loop where we wait and check for the job to complete. So that's this little loop part. You'll see it update the screen periodically. Okay, so here now the loop, now we're checking. Okay. Let's go back over to the UI. It looks a little better in the UI, obviously. Okay, so those all ran. This is just my little goofy complete one. All right, so now let's go over to mini IO. Take a look at those. Actually, here, let's go Salesforce. So we'll go to Salesforce, and you should see these guys kicked off at the same time. So one of these is going to be opportunity, and obviously opportunity, and the other one is account. All right, so we go into mini IO. Let's go look at the outputs here. You can see here's account. Here's the account CSV file. And then here is the opportunity. So let's go take a look at the opportunity. There you go. And there's the opportunity. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. I think the next part of this is orchestrating, getting this loaded into your data store like BigQuery or whatever you want to use. That's the one I'm the most familiar with. But so yeah, the other nice thing, you can kind of click on these jobs here. For each one of these steps, you can get all the summary information. You can get the logs here. Now what this is here, when you see this, because I have retry policy set up, this is what the step that's going to run, and this is the first attempt. So if you had like this fail and another one, it would be like get job ID 1 inside here, and it would keep all this other data so you can see it, but then you'd have another kind of leg here for as many times as you want to do your retry. Okay. Let's see here, so you can see there's the output from the job details right there, and then this is the job ID that correlates into Salesforce. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, and I guess that's it for today. Hope you got something useful out of this, and If you got any questions, ping me.